The latest teases in the Uncle Howdy QR codes last night on SmackDown have been revealed, and it possibly points to an imminent debut of a brand new faction in WWE. Clarification on Cody Rhodes and Logan Paul's upcoming match at the King and Queen of the Ring Premium Live event in Saudi Arabia is going to be just for the WWE Championship. Speaking of the upcoming PLE, the King and Queen of the Ring tournament semi-finals have been set for SmackDown next week. The Sideline reporting that Renee Pett does in AEW reportedly was the idea of one specific AEW talent. Danielson is set to face off against Satnam Singh on AEW Dynamite next week, and more details on the upcoming Who Killed WCW Vice TV documentary. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. Let's start off talking about Uncle Howdy and the latest developments when it comes to the QR codes that we've been seeing for several months now on WWE television. Now, the trail of clues and mystique via QR codes on WWE programming forged forward on SmackDown last night, with simpler content behind it than Raw's 20 pictures to sift through and far shorter duration than Thursday's 55-minute takeover of WWE's Twitch stream. But Friday's reveal may have contained the spookiest breadcrumbs dropped yet by WWE. This time it was more straight to the point, at least in the propped up landing page content itself. There was no optical illusion to solve to get there, no step-by-step, no one little clue at a time journey upon which to embark. Instead, the QR code that flashed during the tag team match between DIY and Legado del Fantasma led straight to a video wrought with glitches that we've become so familiar with in recent weeks, flickering on and off through an image of a picture of a child in a Halloween-style costume getup. Laid upon several drawings that we've seen time and time again in recent weeks, the audio in the clip says first, in a robotic voice, "He is nobody, he is all of us," over and over again as it zooms in on the picture until it gets so close it goes out of focus. At that point, with the screen black, the voice asks, "Do you want to meet him?" before the video cuts to a black and white grainy image / video of a hooded and or masked figure staring back at us. Now, before we get into some of the meaning behind this, take a look at the video itself.
He is nobody. He is all of us. 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 Do you want to meet him?
Now, in digging a little bit deeper past the video, which has become pretty customary in this saga, there was a lot more to decipher. Now, the slug in the landing page and the actual URL for it, as I mentioned, is www.com/22423. That number, once again, 22423. Now, seemingly it refers to February 24, 2023, which is the date of Bray Wyatt's last appearance on WWE television in a Firefly Funhouse episode that also featured Uncle Howdy as the weatherman in a broadcast of Funhouse News. Now, when Wyatt and Ramblin' Rabbit cut to Howdy, all he says is, "I am all of us." The segment then ends with Wyatt promoting a game show called Can You Keep a Secret, before it cuts to Wyatt in a black mask saying, "If I told you a story, could you keep a secret?" Meanwhile, images that flickered over ever so briefly during the glitches in Friday's video itself included a wooded area, an old promo of Waylon Mercy, a character portrayed in WWE by Dan Spivey in 1995, from whom Wyndham Rotunda drew inspiration for his Bray Wyatt character, a woman looking terrified and or tortured, and what fans have suggested was a figure that looked like Uncle Howdy in the crowd at Monday's Raw during a commercial break, and what looked to be the door from which Wyatt emerged at his 2022 Extreme Rules return, slightly opened with light shining through. Once again, interestingly, like we saw on Monday Night Raw, the announce team Friday night on SmackDown acknowledged the interruption, with Corey Graves and Wade Barrett remarking on the recurrence of these instances, seemingly indicating that the ultimate reveal could very well be imminent. So, what do you make of the latest teases? When do you think we're finally going to get this reveal of Uncle Howdy, a new faction, a new character? What are your thoughts on it? Let me know all of your reaction in the comment section below. Now, let's talk about Cody Rhodes versus Logan Paul. We got a lot of clarification on this last night on SmackDown after United States champion Logan Paul was named as Cody Rhodes' next challenger for the undisputed WWE Championship. There has been a great deal of confusion regarding the stakes of the match. The general belief was that both the undisputed WWE Championship and the United States Championship would be on the line, but nothing was made official. During Friday night's contract signing on SmackDown, however, Paul made the stakes for his match with Rhodes very clear. He is unwilling to defend the United States Championship, and their fight will be exclusively for the undisputed WWE Championship. Rhodes and Paul, who was accompanied by a litigator and an assorted variety of lackeys, met with Nick Aldis to publicly confirm their King and Queen of the Ring main event match. Rhodes spoke at length about his aspirations to become a Grand Slam champion by claiming Paul's United States Championship before Paul interrupted him. Paul then unceremoniously ripped up Aldis' copy of the contract in the middle of the ring, claiming that he had not agreed to defend his US title. Paul's litigator then brought forth a new contract, stating that Paul and Rhodes' match would be solely for Rhodes' WWE Championship. After Rhodes dismissed and incensed Aldis, Paul berated the world champion, claiming Rhodes was unworthy of a US title opportunity. Rhodes, offended and angry, signed Paul's new contract. Not a moment after, Paul attempted to blindside the undisputed WWE champion. Rhodes responded by throwing Paul out of the ring and leveling one of his lackeys for good measure. Paul was left walking up the ramp with his team, making it known that Rhodes had signed a death wish. Now, Paul and Rhodes are expected to clash in the main event of the King and Queen of the Ring event in Saudi Arabia on May 25. This will be Rhodes' second title defense since winning the title from Roman Reigns in the main event of WrestleMania 40. Of course, he defeated AJ Styles in his first title defense at WWE Backlash in France. Now, speaking of the King and Queen of the Ring tournaments, we've got more details on that last night on SmackDown. Let's begin with the King of the Ring tournament brackets. Now, the two opponents in the semi-finals for the blue brand side of the King of the Ring bracket were determined Friday night on SmackDown. LA Knight failed to topple Tama Tonga, who was accompanied by the Bloodline, including Solo Sikoa and Tanga Loa. Randy Orton took on Carmelo Hayes in a winning effort in the main event. Orton and Tonga will go head-to-head to earn SmackDown spots in the King of the Ring finals next week in Saudi Arabia on the go-home episode of SmackDown before the premium live event. Knight started off hot against Tonga, but was almost immediately put in a sleeper hold to stall his momentum. Sikoa and Loa got up on the apron, and the referee didn't do anything to stop them. They kept their hands off Knight, but the megastar was distracted, and Tonga hit him from behind. Knight attempted to capitalize and hit a pop-up power slam followed by an elbow drop. As he looked to hit a BFT, Tanga Loa pulled Tonga out of the ring. Knight hit a baseball slide to them both and stared down Sikoa on the outside. When they got back into the ring, Tonga hit a sidewalk slam onto Knight for a pinfall victory. Hayes, who had been in the face of Knight throughout the night backstage, and Orton had a physical bout which involved both men out of the ring. Orton continuously spiked Hayes on the announce table, which didn't give. The men battled back and forth once back inside the ring, but Hayes wouldn't stay down against the Viper. Hayes missed the nothing but net, and Orton set up on the ropes and hit his signature DDT, followed by an RKO for the victory. Following the match, Kathy Kelly attempted to interview Orton about his victory. When the Bloodline music hit, Sikoa, Paul Heyman, Tonga, and Tangaloa came out from the back before Orton got on the mic and stopped them on the ramp. He questioned the Bloodline trying to intimidate him and reintroduced himself to his opponent, reminding Tonga he's a 14-time world champion. Orton said that if he was going to introduce Tonga to the 3 most dangerous letters in wrestling in Saudi Arabia next week, RKO. So that semi-final is set for next week's SmackDown. Now, speaking of the Queen of the Ring tournament, we've got details on that as well. We've just over a week to go until the King and Queen of the Ring premium live events in Saudi Arabia. Last night's episode of SmackDown featured the quarterfinals of the Queen of the Ring tournament. By the time the bell rang, Bianca Belair and Nia Jax scored the victories in their matches and took one step closer to the crown. In an intense match between Tiffany Stratton and Belair, that opened Friday's edition of SmackDown. Stratton having taken the win over Michin in last week's first round tournament match on the WWE Super Show live event, sought to exploit Belair's tweaked knee in the early goings of the match. Despite receiving a scratch to the eyes and a shove to her bad knee, Belair managed to stop Stratton's prettiest moonsault ever in its tracks and reverse into a KOD for the victory. When speaking with Kathy Kelly in a post-match interview, Belair promised that injury or not, nothing would stop her campaign to become the Queen of the Ring. Jax revisited the 2024 Women's Royal Rumble in her quarterfinals match against Jade Cargill. Tensions between Cargill and Jax quickly exploded when Jax began to berate Cargill's daughter, who was sitting in the front row of the audience. Cargill saw red and lost the match via disqualification after she mercilessly wailed on Jax with a steel chair. It was Cargill's first official loss in a WWE match. The timekeeper's bow did not do much to stop the violence, however, as Cargill and Jax engaged in a furious brawl that migrated from the ring to the ramp in the segment's ending moments. Jax and Belair will meet in the semi-finals of the Queen of the Ring tournament. As of this recording, there is no certain date for the matchup, probably once again most likely on next week's episode of SmackDown. Whoever wins the bout will take on the winner of Lyra Valkyria and Io Sky in Saudi Arabia on May 25. Now, one aspect of AEW programming that people have enjoyed is Renee Paquette's sideline reporting. On the May 15th edition of AEW Dynamite, Kazuchika Okada defeated FTR's Dax Harwood to retain the AEW Continental Championship in the main event. Ahead of the start of the bout, Renee Paquette once again offered a sideline report in regards to Dax's feelings going into the match. This is the latest instance of Renee offering those sideline reports before AEW Continental Championship matches from the backstage area or the entranceway. During the premiere episode of Meal and a Match, Renee Paquette revealed that the sideline report was an idea from Eddie Kingston. She said, quote, "Eddie is the best ever. Legit one of my faves to watch. Fun fact, the reason I get to do those sideline reports during Continental Championship matches is because of Eddie requesting it." Eddie Kingston became the first ever AEW Continental Champion by winning the title in the Continental Classic Tournament at the end of 2023. Kingston is currently out of action after breaking his leg in a no-rope last man standing match against Gabe Kidd for the New Japan Strong Openweight Championship at New Japan Resurgence. Now, this is certainly an interesting one. Bryan Danielson is set for a first-time ever match next Wednesday on Dynamite. The legendary Bryan Danielson will be in action on AEW Dynamite against an opponent that most fans likely didn't expect him to face. Now, it's well known by this point that Bryan Danielson plans to stop wrestling as a full-timer later on this year. The former WWE champion is in his third year working for AEW, and he's competed against several different opponents in the company, including the likes of Kenny Omega, MJF, Eddie Kingston, Kazuchika Okada, and he was recently in a classic matchup against Will Ospreay. After his full-time contract expires later in the year, Bryan still plans on having some matches, but his schedule will definitely be reduced as he plans to spend more time at home with his wife Brie, along with their young daughter and son. On May 16th, AEW had tapings for the May 18th episode of Collision and Rampage. At the taping, Danielson was in a tag team match with FTR against Lance Archer and The Righteous. Now, what is a surprise is that during the tapings, AEW announced who Bryan Danielson would be wrestling on the May 22nd edition of AEW Dynamite. According to PW Insider, Danielson will be in action against the largest wrestler in AEW, Satnam Singh. Now, the match is a big surprise because Singh has only wrestled twice on AEW television in 2024, and those were 12-man tag team matches. Singh has had a couple of matches in Ring of Honor too. Satnam Singh also very rarely wrestles in singles matches, so perhaps it's a case of Danielson requesting the match to test himself against a much larger man, since Singh is 7'2" and over 300 pounds. What do you make of this match, and are you curious to see what happens? And finally, there's this upcoming documentary, Who Killed WCW, on Vice TV, and reportedly, it's not the WWE version of events. Now, a new documentary about the death of WCW is not going to be WWE's version of how the Ted Turner-owned company ended. World Championship Wrestling was owned by American billionaire Ted Turner. It was created in the early 1990s after the end of the National Wrestling Alliance, with the idea of building WCW into a worldwide company. From September 1995 until its final day in March of 2001, WCW Monday Nitro, led mostly by President Eric Bischoff, went head-to-head with WWE Monday Night Raw. For 83 weeks, Nitro beat Raw in the mid-1990s until WWE turned the corner in the spring of 1998, thanks to Steve Austin, Vince McMahon, and the rise of D-Generation X, and plenty of other factors. Since WCW's death in March of 2001, there have been many documentaries and books written about the demise of the company. It's a topic that has been covered a lot over the last 2 decades because World Championship Wrestling meant so much to fans around the world. It was recently revealed that WWE legend The Rock and his production company, 7 Bucks Production, have put together a 4-part documentary series titled Who Killed WCW? The series will premiere on Tuesday, June 4th at 10 p.m. on Vice. Brian Gewirtz is a former WWE writer who is now a 7 Bucks senior vice president working closely with The Rock, and he spoke about the process of creating this documentary. He said, quote, "This 4-part series was sold and everything before Dwayne was appointed to the TKO board. Even if he wasn't, we had been working with Vice on Tales from the Territories. We partnered with Evan Husney and Jason Eisner from Dark Side of the Ring and had a great time. When the run was over, Vice basically said, this was good, but we don't know if we want to continue because it's just not as buzzy. It's fine, we'd like something a little better. We pivoted and said, what if we did the ultimate tale from the territory and did WCW? We went back and forth in terms of how we could do that. Should it be one giant doc, 2-part doc? Ultimately, we settled on a 4 one-hour episode series. Everything is so knee-jerk on social media, and if you put out the trailer, a lot of people are excited, which is great, and a lot of people are like, how many times can you tell this story? People are like, Rock is an executive producer, so it's going to be the usual WWE version. As Gewirtz continued, he made it clear that this was not WWE's version of how World Championship Wrestling came to an end. Gewirtz also spoke about how they talked to so many key people involved in WCW and even spoke to Ted Turner some. He said, quote, let me dispel some things. Vice is not buying this show if it's a retread of the WWE version of the WCW story. It's hard to sell a show. We're pitching shows all the time. They're not buying it if it's the same old, same old. That was our pitch. Yes, we have strong WWE ties, but this isn't a WWE story. Yes, Raw got great and that made a dent, but Raw's ascension isn't even in the top 10 of the reasons why WCW imploded, even if the WWE version of the show, whether it's their intention or not, gives the impression that it is. We need to tell the actual story from the actual people who were there. We have to. This is something that no version of the WCW story has ever done before. We interviewed top Turner executives and have them tell their story unfiltered. That's really at the heart of the matter, the relationship between Turner Broadcasting and WCW. We got Brad Siegel and top WCW and Turner executives. Ted Turner's son is interviewed. We got the big names, Brett, Kevin Nash, Goldberg, Booker T, and Sharmell, Bischoff, Russo, DDP, Conan, David Arquette, Medusa. We have The Rock speaking on it from this is what we were seeing on the WWE side, but we truly wanted to tell the real story of WCW from the people that were there and not the WWE version. So what do you make of this documentary? Are you interested in it, and do you think they're going to tell the real version, or once again, is it going to be the WWE version of events? But there you go, guys. This latest pro wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak for you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.